Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey,
Yo,
Yo, what's good?
how's it going, man?
Good, thank you. Sorry for being a little late. I burned the shit out of my hand dabbing, and I
Oh,
had to
man.
take care of the burn.
Sheesh. Sorry to hear
They say weed's not dangerous, but
that. Huh?
um all right, I'll just start. Let me hit record. Are you in Providence?
Yeah, I'm in Providence.
Bro, I'm actually kind of mad we're doing it on Zoom. I live in Worcester.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like we're not that far from each
Oh,
other
damn,
at
we could just
all.
did this in person.
I know I almost canceled today and was like, bro, let's just meet up in person, but I wanted to talk to you. So thank you for
It's all
being on.
good. We'll do another one in the future.
Yeah, I used to have a studio in Providence that I used, but it flooded and I had to get rid of it.
I see, I see, I see. Makes sense
Well,
too. Also, I could hear an accent when you were in the video you posted.
oh, that's mad. I don't think I have an accent. Do you think you have an accent?
I think I lived in New York for 7 years and then LA for 5. And my family's originally from the Midwest, so it kind of I when I'm here for long enough, it starts to seep back in, but
Yeah.
it's I feel like mine's a little over the place.
Yeah, I feel like, do you think it comes through in your music, an accent?
I don't know. Never thought about that. Actually, never thought.
The first time I ever saw you, and this is crazy because it was kind of deja vu because I didn't realize it, was I snuck into that Brown show you did with Megan the Stallion.
Yo, that's absolutely insane. Every
Bro,
time
I didn't go to Brown. Like, I just snuck in.
you snuck in,
Yeah.
that's dope that you knew who she was at that time.
Yeah, I've always been about like finding artists and
That's
shit,
dope.
you know?
I had I had no clue who she was uh until the show, and then that was the year she blew up. Just
Yeah. How did that come together? Just quick.
Someone from their student organization had heard about me and just reached out around then and
Yeah.
set it up, man. It's cool.
I didn't think she was gonna be as big as she was. I just thought she was like a cool artist. You know what I mean? Like she had a cool
Yeah.
project at that point.
I feel like in hindsight, it's always easy to make those calls, but like, yeah, at that
Hmm.
time, it's like, how, you know.
Were you ever like that? Like when you were younger, just trying to find like different artists and shit?
Oh no, to this day, I don't know if I'm as obsessed as like finding new artists. Granted, I do find new artists, and when I find them, I'm like really into them. But I think for me, I grew up, and I don't know if this is part of the interview or not, but
Yeah, yeah. We just kind of
got
start and
all
then
right, good,
it's a
good.
rolling. It's more of
Um,
a conversation than an
got you,
interview.
got you, got you. Just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I'm not wasting anything good.
Yeah,
My
don't drop
backstory.
any.
But no, so I grew up in Providence, and you know what it's somewhat like here. And when I started, it was still that era of to get on, you had to do a bunch of shows, and then hopefully some scout finds you or word gets out, and you just build locally. So I used to open up for like a lot of the '90s rappers that would come to Rhode Island, and that and I had a homie at the movie theaters. I used to work in movie theaters in the mall downtown. A homie there, he put me on the like old school hip hop and opening up for people put me on the hip hop. So I say all that to say that I was very interested in finding older artists at that time and like what already existed. Like, finding going through a tribe called Quest binge, going through a Wu-Tang binge, going through a most Def Talib Kweli binge, or just finding stuff like that.
How
I
old were you at
was
that time?
I was it's somewhere between 16 and 18, I would say.
Who were you doing shows with?
So people I opened up for at that time, Cannabis, Killer Priest, um, Keith Murray, Sirius Jones. I did this festival, this like arts festival thing with Slick Rick was on the bill, and Beanie Siegel was another one. There was more on that list, but it was Providence is a B market or C market for like New York artists, so they
Yeah.
always can tour.
And they got those the legacy
Yeah,
shows are so big in New England, it's kind of
yeah,
crazy. Like you could see a member of Wu-Tang Clan perform every weekend in Massachusetts. Like there's
yeah.
one member doing a show at least.
It was dope because I got to really have a, I don't know. I mean, I got to get a formal education on hip hop. You know, whether it wasn't like I went to school for it shit, but
Yeah.
being around that, opening up for it, like I really got to live it and be in it, and having
Were
a
there
free.
any Providence rappers?
Yeah. So there's Chachi, um, John Hope, um, there was these dudes. I don't know what business world they're in, but they used to make some money. They're known for making money. There's a dude like Mal G. I think he was close with like who's the dude? Max B. They were very
Mm.
close with that sect. And then yeah, there was Japan at that time. There's like a bunch of local dudes who were good enough to do bigger things, but were stay local, or some of them traveled out and then came back eventually.
That sounds because I came up in the Providence comedy scene actually. Like Askew
Mm.
is where I started. Rest in peace, Askew. They just
Where's
closed
that
it
at?
down. It's right across from Alchemy. It's the same owners of Alchemy,
Uh,
and that's where I started comedy. Was at that like basically at that open mic and shit. And Providence has a lot of art, but the industry isn't like there. I feel like you have to go out and get it somewhere else.
I think they're yeah, and the people who I feel like the people who had that little kind of tap, the little plug, there's this dude Charles Brown who used to throw all the hip hop shows that I would open up for because he just saw me as this like young ass kid who was just really about it and he would give me opportunities to open up for these artists. But I'm not sure if he was originally from Rhode Island or if he settled in Rhode Island, but I feel like a lot of people who had the plugs were like people who were transplants a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
Or
because you had Lupo's, which is now the Strand.
Strand, yeah. Oh, damn, I haven't heard the name Lupos in a minute. That's crazy.
Bro,
And
Lupo's
then
had some,
Jerky's too.
yeah. Lupo's was like the Wild West. That was like the first club where you would see a real show, but then like people would be smoking inside and security wouldn't give a shit. Like it was the first, like they didn't give a fuck there.
Yeah, Lupos is huge too. Like it feels small, but it's pretty big for like a Rhode Island venue. I think that's probably like the other than like no, I think it's bigger than Fett. So as far as like going from like the Jerkies or the Strand, which used to be or the Met or not the Strand, the not yeah, the Met.
Yeah,
Going from those levels, I think that's like the next level up and it's pretty big.
yeah. I remember, and they didn't give a fuck when the headliner went on at
No,
Lupo's.
no.
I saw PNB Rock rest in peace on Christmas Eve, and he
Oh
went
wow.
on 1 a.m. Christmas Day.
Sheesh. That's crazy.
I was like, God damn, the doors opened at like 8 or some shit.
That's crazy. People probably
Yeah.
wait forever.
What was your first venture outside of Providence?
So I went to school at Northeastern in Boston for about 2 years before I dropped out. And I guess I tried to build a name out there on like the local college front of things, which they had a whole different ecosystem of how music worked out there too, which might have been similar, but I wasn't as tapped in. So I just tried to do things at school around that time.
Why'd you drop out?
We had a co-op program where you intern for you can two it's 5 years technically if you want to do the co-op program, but 4 years if you don't. I never really liked uh, Boston that much. Like, not to say it's not a
I
good
better get
place.
hate for I don't like it either.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not. I don't, and I think over the years it's gotten a lot better, and there's a lot of dope artists who've come out of there since. But I don't think, and it was a similar thing to Rhode Island. Maybe I liked Rhode Island just because I was from there, but it was a similar thing where you didn't have a underground culture conducive to raising artists up, or you didn't have this like everything was very gate kept and ruled. Like, like fucking show if you want to do some shit and you had to go through their shady ass like way of or whatever the fuck their shit was.
Yeah.
Which, I didn't like that politics system. And then even when I was in school, there was politics to me getting, shows in school. And I'm just such a naturally rebellious person that one, if I don't like the gates and all the rules, I'm already checked out. But two, if there's not like the code, like Boston is like it's a lot of schools and it's a melting pot of a lot of people, but it's not as like interesting as New York was for me. And I interned in New York for like a PR company called Audible Treats. And in that 6 months, I felt 10 times more alive. And I felt like I had an opportunity to just be whoever I wanted to be, because if you go on the subway, you'll see the craziest shit in your life. So I couldn't be as crazy as anything on the subway, like, but I had that freedom to just be as crazy or figure out who I was. I feel like in a Boston or Rhode Island, well, Rhode Island because it's small, it's a little confining. But like Boston was confining in the sense of it kind of has this North Face monoculture to it at that time.
Yeah. Bro, it's so crazy how similar you're describing that to the comedy scene. Cause like I'm in like the rap world mostly, like, and
Yeah,
I like to smoke weed and I like to have fun and I like to whatever, take mushrooms, whatever it is. And then you go to the Boston comedy scene and it's like, oh, Sam's a fucking crazy person. But it's like, no, like in New York, like every other city like welcomes it, but it's weird. It's like you have to be kind of like college appropriate. They think that the colleges are going to run everything when it's like that's not even really what it is.
yeah. I mean, I can go on a tangent about that, but that's why
No,
I
go
dropped
on the
out. But
tangent.
that's
I want to
essentially
hear
why I
it.
dropped out. I just felt like, um, and then my mom was a college professor growing up, so I was around a lot of college kids. So I felt like the shit they cared about, I just didn't care about on the same level. Not to say I was more mature, uh, completely, but
But you
I
were
just,
always quote unquote an artist, you know?
yeah, yeah, oh, pretty much. But yeah, I don't know. I got bored with it rather quick, and then living in New York I felt alive, and then I got an opportunity. Once I dropped out, I went back to Rhode Island for about after the co-op ended. I went back. This was like the end of 2011. I dropped out or took a leave of absence. Never went back, but during that 9 month span, I just started doing stuff locally and continued to do that. And then I met someone who worked at Fader via my homie John Hope. It was his manager at the time. And he's like, "Hey man, if you ever want to go back to New York, I work here and I live there, and I can get your internship at Fader." I was like, "Okay, sure, whatever. I'll think about it." And then 2 months later, some shit happened, and I either had to stay in Rhode Island or just fucking move. And I moved to New York. And that was really
What
it.
happened, if you mind me asking?
My mom just like lost the crib.
Mm,
After taking a leave of absence, there was some like financial shit, like some money I owed that like
yeah.
my dad didn't want to pay at the time because he thought I was like flunking out and all this shit. And I was like, I was sleep. I slept that summer of 2012. I slept on my homie's floor for that whole summer. Um, Oddly enough, I live with him now, which is crazy. But
And was music, was it working at that time or were you still like
this was
hoping?
like pre-streaming. Like you weren't making money off music. It was like people fucked with me. Like my name was slowly like, oh, Khary's the weird artist, like slowly like moving up
Mhm.
the ranks in Rhode Island. But like I still was a long way from where I ended up. And it was working, but it wasn't like there was no infrastructure to make money off music back then at that time yet.
That's always like the weirdest point in your career, I feel like. Like when people are fucking with you, but you are like, but it's not working. Like it's, you know what? Like I don't know. Like I remember being like going viral every week and having these big podcasts and then roofing on Cape Cod like in the winter. And I'd be
Mm,
like posting clips from my like West Side Gun interview and I'd be like
sheesh.
out on the roof on Cape Cod getting yelled at because I'm not doing a good job. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
because it's like a weird time in an artist's life where you're like everyone is believing in you, but it's that one time where you start to doubt yourself, you know?
Hmm. Which I think those moments kind of force you to be in the present. Not like you're not thinking about your future, but you literally just have to, work with what you got very much in those moments and just hope that there's something around the corner. Like I couldn't have planned to meet my homie John Hope's manager who worked at Fader and have an opportunity to go intern there
Yeah. So
in
what
New York.
happened after that when you go to New York and start working at Fader?
Uh, so when I did that first internship through school, I worked at Urban Outfitters and then found this like part-time job at a sneaker boutique. So I had a place to work that made money, but the internship didn't pay. It was like
Hmm.
music industry, they don't pay. Uh, so I worked there. I interned at Fader for probably like a year and a half to 2 years. Granted, I stayed around that whole area for like 2.5 years, maybe. But I worked in the marketing department. They had like an agency called Cornerstone, which I still think they do. So it was like a partner company with the magazine, but it wasn't the editorial side of it. It was like where they would do brand partnerships, and that's where they made their money, pretty much, if you really
Yeah.
think. Uh, and I just knew not to get too wrapped up in that work because I know I want to be an artist. So like I would get over. I was good. I was a good. I wasn't the smart, but like I wasn't the smartest all the time. But like I was a grinded out guy. Like I'd figure out. You could send me across town to run some shoes to this meeting with Pharrell or I was just the guy you could
Did
count
you
on.
do that? Bring
Oh,
shoes to
100%. Yeah, I had to
Pharrell?
run a box of shoes like to the Billionaire Boys Club office because
You're like, why is there a CD taped to the back of this box?
bruh, I wish I was that guy. I wasn't that guy. And that's why like they fucked with me because I just wasn't that guy. And I slowly let them
Yeah.
find my music over time. I told people here and there, like my boss immediately there. But yeah, I was doing stuff. I was, like brands would send out shoes to like artists, like seating and stuff like that. So I was doing
Mhm.
stuff like that, like sending shoes to like Trinidad and James and whatever, whoever was popping at that time.
He's
Which
having a comeback. I'm
why
loving
no,
Trinidad
it was just
James'
cool to
new
see.
stuff.
Which is cool to see. But while you're packing those boxes, you're like, man, I should be getting this shit.
Yeah.
But it was dope. I learned a lot about marketing. I learned a lot about the industry. I made a lot of connects at that time. Um, uh, my strategy though was like to find money since it was unpaid. I would go sit in the mailroom with this dude Dirty, who's the funniest dude in the office. Everyone fucking loved Dirty. And like if you had some bullshit, like you go chill with Dirty and he'd help you out with some bullshit. But I learned how to send out stuff in the mailroom. So when he was out, I would fill in for him and get paid for that. And then I learned how to do the front desk. So when the front desk lady was out, Felicia, I would get paid for that as well. Um, and those were ways where I could be there, get paid, and not be caught up in it. Like I
Yeah.
had homies who took the job, and then their music or whatever they were doing started to fall off. But I just knew I didn't want to be there, forever.
It
I
was
was
a
there.
means to an end type
Yeah, I
shit.
moved to New York to be an artist and be closer to it. But eventually they started showing me love on the website and all that. But
And is that when shit started to take off? Is when they started showing love?
not the takeoff, but the validity. Like it gave me a certain sense of cachet or whatever the word is among industry people and people there, but it still wasn't like like that wasn't what really launched it. But that experience is what made helped me make the project that eventually launched it.
And how long after that did the project get made? Is that your first album?
So I dropped a bunch of projects over the years, but
Yeah.
I dropped this project called Intern Aquarium in 2016. It was the first time I just used my name. My first rap name was KIT. My second rap name was Khary Durgans, which is my full name. Not my second, but I dropped a project under that. And then I just started going by Khary, which is just my first name. And as the title suggests, it was kind of based on my times interning, trying to make it as an artist, and like it loosely plays on this like funny boss dynamic, and just little stories and stuff, like people trying to fuck with the girl interns and stuff like
Yeah.
had this loose like hero story based into it. And I caught like a weird center point of I caught peak SoundCloud. So via my old manager slash still my homie Andrew, he was really involved in the SoundCloud era and like super like locked in on these dudes called Film Noir. And then via that, he would introduce me a lot of producers. So people were reposting stuff, which was like this pure time in music where the artists kind of put artists on. It wasn't like completely blogs were one side of it, and then the other side was SoundCloud, where it was artists reposting shit and like, oh damn, this dude I fuck with has 100K followers, reposting my shit to his following. There was that era. So I caught the peak of SoundCloud. Via that, this YouTuber found my music and used to just tell stories, and he still does it. His name's Luna. Shouts to him. He started using my songs randomly as his outros on his YouTube, and he had like 1 million, 2 million subscribers at the time. And I would start getting comments on my videos like from Luna, from Luna, from Luna. It'd be like 20, it'd be 100 comments like that. I'm like, all right, who the fuck is this dude? And I look him up. It's like, oh, this YouTuber's been using my shit. So I got a lot of fans from that. And then I caught the beginning of Spotify.
Mhm.
Uh, so my first song on Spotify got playlisted and hit like 1 million streams in that year. And this is like early SoundCloud. I'm early Spotify. So 1 million streamers on Spotify back then was crazy. And I got a lot of love from that. And that's when all the labels and stuff started reaching out around that time. It was just like this perfect storm of things.
Yeah, that's a really cool story going from the whatever having to move and the hardship of that to like what that came of it. I didn't even realize that was like kind of like your origin story as an artist. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah, very, very weird. It almost seems like yesterday and so long ago at the same time.
Yeah. I Were you always like when you were opening up for the like older school dudes, were you always like all your mute I don't want to speak for it, but I do feel like you have a lot of like concepts in your music, which I appreciate. Like even that first project that you're talking about, like the
Mhm.
ideas behind it. Were you always doing more like conceptual stuff, or were you trying to fit like that sound in the beginning?
I think I always concept first. Um, I Whether I knew it or not, I like the idea of world building and that, and I think world building and marketing kind of fit together in this weird way. One we call art, the other we call business, but there's a business to the art of it, and I think they overlap. And I think I was always good at branding, marketing through all the trials of like trying to sell my first t-shirt at those shows and like trying to figure out how to trying to sell my brother's mixtape to my friends because I had an older brother who rapped, trying to sell his mixtapes and just like through all the try I and then it almost doesn't feel like a coincidence that instead of that internship I got at Fader being on the editorial side, it was on the marketing whatever side.
Hmm.
So I think I was better at that than I was at music first. And it's over the years I've gotten good at music, and they're kind of meeting at a good point right now. But I think that just comes from my understanding of that, and that just came naturally to me.
You said right now?
Yeah,
You think you're finally making good music right now?
I think yeah. I don't think what I was making was bad, and I don't hate what I've made in the past. I think from a music and a polished standpoint, uh, I it's almost as if we forget that some artists, painters, and stuff like that, their best work comes later in life.
Hmm.
I'm 33 now. Like this was all when I was 23, 24. 2016 is when that project dropped.
Yeah.
And we like to say music is this young person's game, but if you're an artist, it's just art. if you're trying to sell or if you're trying to like market yourself in for a long time through this machine, yes, you can call it a young person's game. But I think given the times we're at now, 33 isn't that old. But in music years, that is old as fuck. And we have this like focus on young, youth, and youth. And if you don't have this by then, it's X, Y, and Z. But a lot of comedians, a lot of our favorite comedians, they don't pop off to their mid to late 30s.
Yeah.
Sometimes later than that. A lot of painters made their best work later in life. And I just now feel like I'm making music. It doesn't feel as much of an accident. I guess maybe that's what the best way to say it. Back
Mhm.
then, some of the songs I would, the creativity was just naturally flowing in with X, Y, and Z. But like, if you asked me to make one of those songs again, I could never like the ones that popped off. I couldn't make it again. Now I
Yeah.
feel like I'm skilled enough to replicate. Not saying that's my goal, but like it's of my own doing and the people around me. Like it's planned. It's not, and not to take away from the magic of making music, but I just feel like it's more of a skill than it was back then, where I was just running off just talent and creativity.
Yeah. I do think that music is older now. I don't think it's young anymore. I mean, I feel like being able to work with Griselda and stuff, like they're in their 40s now and they're to me at the top of the game of like creativity and just
Mm-hmm.
being like uniquely independent. And there's so much even Danny Brown, like I rep Bruiser Brigade and it's like he's having a renaissance
But I
now,
think,
like
and I think it's because we just no longer just it. The reality is what you subscribe to, and I think we had all been brought into this like label esque world of which like
which
for
is
them from a
dead,
business
bro.
standpoint, they want to get artists as young as they can because that's longevity business wise.
And because they don't know anything. I mean,
And
like,
it, well, but just think about it from just like a straight business standpoint, right?
yeah.
Say I was signed to a label for the rest of my life, or say all artists signed to live. If you get in earlier, you have more money to make off, like if you off that artist forever, like
Yeah.
so their goal was signing younger artists and building them up. And I just think give or take, which are there's ups and downs of the current market or not of the current state of music. But one of the benefits is that we don't have to subscribe to that system anymore because you can there's the pipeline to visibility doesn't have to go through someone else.
There's like five big rap labels, like the major
Yeah.
labels. And I was talking with the VP of one of them a
Mm-hmm.
couple days ago at like an event. And he told me that they had to cut all funding and that there's no more of an artist development budget at
Sheesh.
all. He literally said at one of these top fives, I can't say the name, you know what I mean? Just like
Mm-hmm.
that there's no budget for artist development and they got rid of the artist development completely and fired everybody in the team. And I'm like, that shows that the young kid shit kind of is over because it's like, now you got to build your career on your own and then find your fans. Like, that's kind of what it
That's
is.
because their own business model doesn't work anymore.
Literally, bro. When he said that shit to me, I was like, what the? You got rid of the whole artist development department, bro? Like,
They're that business model of taking like not saying it can't work grabbing a young artist, but I think what they're realizing is one, they don't know no one knows what the fuck a hit is. You know what a good song is in some
mhm.
capacity. You have a better idea of feeling out for these things. But two, this goes back to what I was just saying about me feeling like I now make good music. When the labels were calling, had I signed back in 2016, I wouldn't have been able to replicate the success of what they were calling me for because I was young and didn't know what the fuck I just did. I was just like, oh, it sounds nice. This feels like me. This feels like, I was going off vibes, just complete vibes. And I think the benefit of being older in this landscape or what I'm finding for myself is that I can replicate what I do. I can make a world. I can purposely build songs. Back then the label's job was to do that for you and find producers to help you do that. But if a random artist pops up and goes viral, you skip all those steps and now you're in front of millions of people.
And that's for good or for worse. Because
What do you
some
think?
people,
What's your opinion?
I think a lot of people, this is
Good
so
or for
fucked
worse?
up. This is a really fucked up thing to say because I don't agree with my own statement,
Yeah.
but a lot of people get super big, super quick off of like on the radar and then don't know how to handle that level of fame. And it's amazing, and I'm happy for anyone that can get any level of success. And I think On the Radar is an incredible platform. It's not their fault, but it's like there isn't anyone to kind of like guide you. You know what I mean? Like you are just the internet's so weird like that, bro.
And this is why labels are throwing away their artist development is because it's like it's better off trying to find someone who is ready for that and like if you can look through someone's social media and see how they're moving, you'd be like, oh, I could probably this is probably a better horse as opposed to just blindly betting on youth, which they did during 2020 and 2021, where they were just signing all these TikTok artists, blindly. And then in 2021, I was living in LA still. I went to so many artists' first shows ever. Like I had to go into like 5 or 10 first shows ever, and I've never experienced that in music.
And that's not good.
And these were people with like full crowds. It was their
Yeah.
first show. And
But then
then with
you know as
some,
starting young that performing is a whole other like it's not just because you can make music doesn't mean you can perform. Just because you can make like funny sketches online doesn't mean you can do stand-up comedy. It's like
yeah.
performing is a whole different art form.
And out of that, like, say it was 10 that I went to see, maybe two of them were really good on stage. And I was like, God damn, how's this your first show?
Who are
The
the two
other,
good ones? Do you
the other
remember?
eight, I'm like, this is your first show. Like,
Do you remember who was good?
uh, I remember, I don't know if it was her first show, like her complete first show, but out of the like some of the artists I saw coming out of TikTok, what's her name? Damn, she has like blue hair. It's like blonde with blue highlights or some shit.
Huh.
More like a pop singer, like alternative pop. I'll
Huh.
have to. Her name will come back.
Yeah, whatever. Well, I thought whatever, however you feel about it now, it kind of, but it's like I thought Meg did a really good performance that day. I was happy that
Oh no,
show.
she killed it.
She was a good performer, and I was like, it
Yeah.
made me like at the moment be more of a fan of her.
I think that's a better metric to invest in artists is performance and social media consistency, whether it's good or not. Well, not bad, not completely bad, but like the fact that they're trying,
Yeah, you
like
can't be manic online.
yeah, you
That's
can't just be crazy, but uh because those are two things that prove that the artist is investing in themselves
hmm
in some capacity. And like you don't just get good at performing like without having to like think about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I remember another great performer. I saw her on her first headlining show ever at the Fet with SZA.
SZA,
I saw her at
that's
the
crazy.
Fet with Smino. It was like
So
Smino and her.
so when I used to intern at Fader and Cornerstone, I met SZA back then. At that time, this was like pre TDE signing. This is when she was dropping like the EPs with the SZA, like when spelling out her name.
hmm
And then I met her a bunch of times actually throughout over time. But they were like dropping off cupcakes to the editors at Fader for like writing as a thank you for writing, and that was always dope. Um, and I think the Cornerstone they had a thing called Farm Team, which like we go to South by Southwest and or do like the people who are doing wheat pasting and the floor stencils and
hmm
posters, and that was like part of the thing. And that was another way to get paid based off a certain quota, how much you made. I think she used to be a part of that before I got there. Um, but her manager at the time was definitely still part of that, and that's why she would be around the office sometimes and such.
Fader puts on some cool artists. I feel like they do a good job of putting on certain artists. Shout
At
out,
that
they put on
time,
my homie DJ Lucas a while ago.
they had the pulse. When I was there, they had the fucking pulse. Like the amount of music industry execs, or not even execs, but just people work, actually some execs, people who work in the music industry that came out of that farm program, or artists that came out of that farm program, is crazy. I'd have to really think about it and like make a list, but a lot of us, and I still see them like at events here and there when I used to go out, but a lot of people came out of that program.
Did you have any bad dealings with labels, or did you stay independent most of your?
So during that 2016 route, I met with a bunch of labels. They were doing the fly out to LA thing. You're like a kid, big eyed. I grew up in a weird time where you're between the streaming era and the, like I explained, opening up for cannabis and just random like
Yeah.
I just grew up between two different eras and I had to adapt. I had to like get a new update, like or a new DLC every 2 years, my whole career.
Yeah.
Um, so there was a part of me that was like, you know what, sign, you should probably sign. That's the pipeline, But part of me deep, if you really deep down, was like, no, just stay independent, do it that way. Um, and my best friend at the time, well, still my best friend, but at the time, he co-founded STEM, this company, the music distribution company. He's one of the co-founders of that, and then that's how I got my first song on Spotify, and that was the first time I made money off streaming. So the idea of being independent was slowly starting to become a thing to me, but I was in that sign period. So I was getting flown out, met with Atlantic, met with Def Jam, met with uh Blue Note. Is it Blue Note? Glass Note. Glass Note, met with Red Bull, got close to signing with Red Bull. We like did like a dinner and all that shit. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm signing Red Bull. And then they just ghosted me at some point
That's fucked up.
in that process. And I didn't realize as how much that shit affected me, but that put me in a little, as an artist, young artist, put me in a little, not a spiral, but just that was the first time I maybe felt depression in my life, but not like a crippling depression, but it was just like
No, because it gives you a doom perspective of your art, which you've never felt like before.
yeah.
I was promised a lot of money and then
I
ghosted by
felt,
a label, and it
you feel
literally like
invincible up until that point.
yeah, and then it really like I think I went like it affected my career for like 2 years. For like a year or two, I was like, maybe I'm not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
It was a weird, I don't know how to describe the feeling. And I think it was my first sense of not being optimistic. Like I was a pretty optimistic, like grinded out, figured. I moved to New York, man. I was working three jobs. I would wake up at 7 a.m., go intern at Fader some days, and then go work at Urban Outfitters down the street from that until like eight. Or no, not even. I would go from Fader to Brooklyn to work at the sneaker boutique, and then at 8 p.m. go work at Urban Outfitters till close at 1 a.m., get home maybe about 2:30. If I wasn't partying, maybe get to sleep at some point, and then wake up and do it. Like I'm a grind and figure it out person. That was the first time where I didn't feel invincible in some capacity mentally. But in hindsight, is the best thing that ever happened for me. Because,
Because
like
you
I said, I wouldn't have known what to do with the rock if you passed me the ball at that time at that moment.
and did it, do you think it affected your creativity or do you feel like you made better music because of it?
I think it just gave me, whether I wanted it or not. If you asked me back then, like, did I want that freedom to whatever? Because that shit's scary. And, like, granted, I would have had a little more security if I signed at that point. I probably would have blew the money on some dumb shit, but um, it gave me the space to figure myself out as an artist and figure out who I am. Granted, that shit took a long time. Like it took me another 8 years, 7 years. And I would have wanted these things to happen faster. And, there were some decisions I made that weren't the best, but these are personal and things I had to develop and grow as a person uh, that a younger me just wouldn't have been able to do. And it all just feels necessary for the now.
You need to life build too. I feel like that's important. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's something not like preached enough or talked about enough or like I don't know. Like I remember when I went through my last relationship, which I wasn't very public about because like
Mhm.
it's weird to be public about it. But then like you break up and then you're like, why did I do that? Like why did I take so but it's like nah, like you need to build yourself as a person too. You need to like build have friends, like you need to I now finally after 5 years will not do something to spend time with family because I was like, damn, bro, like for 5 years I didn't see my family, kind of like
Mhm.
I was just trying to grind it out, and then you're like, but they're all moving on without you in a different way, and I feel like that's not talked about a lot as an artist that that shit's important too.
I agree, man. I agree.
Whatever.
And that's something I just value. I value so much more now.
Yeah.
And granted, I do have like a fire under my ass right now where I'm like, all right, cool, it's the time to do it. You got all these skills, you know what you need to do,
Yeah.
like do it.
Are you a mushroom guy? I know you talk about it in that song.
I'm not a tie-dye shirt. No, I'm not
Hey, you know
Grateful
what? I
Dead.
almost didn't wear this shirt. This is real bad, man. This is
That's a fire shirt though. I'm not. I like the spider. I'm not a yeah like tie-dye shirt shroom trip every whatever. But I do like to microdose. I have taken like full doses and found insight from that. Last time I like really tripped was it wasn't like a road trip, but I took like 3 or 4 microdoses on my birthday. At the same time, we were in Bend, Oregon on tour and like hiking this mountain, and there was this like rock cliff, and I was just hugging the rock after and shit like that,
that's sick.
plotting life. But
When's your birthday?
September 28th. Yeah. But yeah, I do fuck with shrooms, and I think I'm overdue for another trip soon.
Yeah, you can't, because it's funny. That song, what, came out like 3 years ago?
2022. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like, was that pandemic or no? That was
That's
post-pandemic.
post-pandemic. Post-pandemic.
Because I feel like mushrooms were at an all-time high during pandemic. I feel like
Yeah.
people went
That was
really
when I
high.
first yeah, it was my I took my first trip
What
and
was your first trip like? I'm gonna grab a
was
seltzer
that on my
quick.
birthday as well too?
I'm listening, sorry.
I'm just trying to think if that was on my birthday. I think it was. I think it was September as well. Because I was house sitting for my homie, and him and his wife had a loft, and I just stayed there, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna trip by myself. It was amazing because it was a journey. It was just a journey. Maybe not. It was just a journey. I covered all the mirrors. Some people say just don't look at mirrors and don't look at your phone. So I put my phone somewhere, or I didn't put my phone somewhere. I eventually found it,
I
but
don't like that. Don't look at mirrors. It's like you should love yourself enough to be able to look at yourself while you're
you
tripping.
might not though. You
I don't think
should,
I
but
look
do
that
you?
good, but I can look at myself while I'm
Yeah,
tripping.
yeah. I don't know. I was so scared to like do shit wrong. Um, but I was looking up at the ceiling and it started to turn to like a paisley pattern, but like a like light glaze over it, like this transparent, like almost like bubbles, like when there's color and bubbles or oil in the sun,
Yeah.
or water, whatever. And then started off just like a little sad, a little whatever, start crying. Then the cry turned into laughter. And laughter turned into me dancing to a whole Tame Impala album, the Slow Rush, and just being like, "This is the greatest album ever" at the time. And like I danced through that whole album just in this room by myself.
I did that the first time, but to a Vampire Weekend album.
Okay, got you. Good taste, good taste. And then I went on the roof. They had a little rooftop access with a hot tub. I sat in that, and then it started to get a little dark towards that part. And I was like, I don't want to be on a roof right now. I feel like it's getting like this trip is getting a little dark for me right now. The come down sometimes is a little rough. And so I went inside and I didn't want to be alone. I felt this sense of aloneness and just like not just physically, but just like mentally. And it's like, oh, I don't check up on my friends enough, or like, like X, Y, and Z. And I just started calling friends, and I finally chilled the fuck out, and then went on a Lime scooter ride, and it just felt amazing. And I'm just watching. I scope. skip or ride by this bridge underpass, and this old dude, gray hair, just playing guitar and wailing like wow. It was like fuck. I don't even think he was singing. He was just wailing. And I'm like, damn, I want to be as free as that guy. And that was like my biggest takeaway.
And you kind of do that in deep
I
conversations.
do now, yeah.
You wail in that track.
That's the live version. Live version.
Oh, yeah, in the live version, you do it. Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first shroom trip.
That's cool. Well, how did that song come together? When did you come up with the idea for that song?
So around 2021 and 2022, I noticed via this finding myself that I grew up on hip hop, but have been slowly getting inspired by alternative rock music lately and wanted to make slowly make that transition. Um, and when I made that track with my homie Biju, it just came out very, very natural. He had this like melody for the chorus, and I just wrote all the words. Or like before I even got to the session, he's like, I produced this song, whatever, last night. And he's like, he played the beat for me, and then he started humming this melody, and I changed a good amount of it. Um, and then I want prior to that, the weekend before or a couple days before that, I went to like a picnic for like a friend's birthday, and I was talking to this girl, and I was so high that like I couldn't say anything. Like words just stopped. At some point, like I got so conscious of myself talking that I just like I must have looked crazy. I just could not say anything after we hi and X, Y, Z. I was like, what do you do? And then she started talking, and I just like froze. Maybe I didn't, but I thought I froze. I don't know. But that's where I got the is this too deep for a party? I'm talking too much, girl. I'm sorry. Um, I think I took too much, essentially. Like, and then I didn't want to just make a party song. I wanted to make this like, oh, let's make the verses deep and the chorus about drugs. And it's like the whole concept is just like I'm too high to be at a party right now, and I'm having trying to have this deep conversation with someone for no fucking reason right now.
It'd be like that.
Yeah,
It's a
so
very,
it came from real experience, a real life experience, and
yeah. When I heard it, I was like, nah, this is me a lot. I relate to this shit.
just going on a fucking tangent about nothing. Well, not nothing, but yeah, that song came out in 2022, and then last year I just started re-promoting it, and I had a post go viral, and then it just went
Oh,
up
so
like
the song wasn't like, did it not, was it doing well the
it did
first year?
okay. Yeah, it did fine in the first year. Maybe like 500,000 streams. Like it was cool. I think now it's at
Yeah.
like 2 million something. But
Always repost. Yeah. You should always promote your shit more than one time. You never
hundred
know.
percent. Because I mean, it's all context. Just because a algorithm might not be favoring the song right now, or might not have found the right audience for it yet, I like to think you just haven't provided the song the right context yet, you know,
Yeah.
and put it in the right frame in which, like LaMelo Ball's song, that one that's going viral right now, works for so many reasons that like only he could do it. The influence, him
Yeah.
being a basketball player,
It's
and
like
sunk
KSI's
in.
song. It's like everyone's going to talk about it, so it's going to blow up.
It has to be so uniquely tied to like people want to see KSI lose. He has a lot of people who are fans, and he has a lot of people who want to see him lose. So even the song is not like a terrible song. Is it a
No. But
great
it's
song to me?
fun to
No,
talk shit about for
but it's
people.
fun to like if someone else put like if 21 Pilots put that song out, it would have been fine. It would just been a regular like 21 Pilots song, or like one of those type of artists put that
Yeah.
song out. But since it's KSI, it's like we're gonna shit on it and make it becomes this thing because if if if
I think Tweaker's cool, but I don't think it's as good as people are giving it credit for.
with the context
Yeah.
is greater than the song. And
I don't
that's
give a fuck
sometimes
about sports, so I see it as like
but that's the thing. It reminded people of it sounded like some music that would be in Madden '02,
do
like
you
that.
like it? Would you say that's a good song?
I think the chorus is great for what it is. I don't know if I don't know. I believe and don't believe in good music at the same time. But over music, I know the objective thing to me is context. I believe in good context, and it had the right context.
Yeah. Like people hate I guess that's true. People hate on a lot of shit where it's like I just enjoy like that like Georgiana. I think her shit's fun. Like I think but
Context.
people hate her. Like
White hood girl, like context. Like
yeah.
she's a rarity. You don't expect her to. That's just context. That's,
Yeah. Yeah, like I did one of those Ice Spice videos and the amount of hate Ice Spice gets, I kind of felt bad for her. I was like, bro, people hate. It's crazy how much people hate on the internet. I just have never been that type of person where I'm like constantly talking shit or wanting to fight people in the comments or
yeah. Yeah, I don't get that. Like, I get it. I'm just not like that's just I don't like that shit
Are you a
either.
hater? Are you a hater at
Oh,
heart?
absolutely not. I'm like I'm always the guy like I'm saying right now. I'm like, oh man, maybe you just don't get the context. Maybe the context is like
Yeah.
I'm always that guy. There are moments where I'm just like, man, I'll have the urge to be like, damn, this is terrible, but I'm not even gonna comment that. Like it's just it is what it is. And I think people hate online because one, there's you get your little significance, you get people talking to you. That's how lonely we are as humans. And then two, it's just that's just what fuels the algorithms. Like it's not even on the post where a song goes viral, right? Part of it going viral is the if you dig through the comments, it's the 20% that are saying this is terrible. You know what? Even if 80% are saying it's great, that's what keeps the conversations and trend lines going. You're rewarded
Yeah.
for negativity
Yeah,
online.
because if I like something, I'm probably not going to comment, or if I am, it's
Yeah,
going to be
I
something
might like
quick.
it, and that does drive it. But the dialogue of like people hating
Yeah.
it is what really is the engine behind even my post that went viral. I was purposely responding to this one guy who just would not stop responding to me. And then that thread got so fucking long of people joining in, like shitting on him or agreeing that the post just kept going. Like, it is what it is, man. I don't like it. And I feel like Twitter's the worst place because I feel like people just like, it's not even like genuine hating on Twitter. Like, it's like people are just rewarded so heavily for hating on Twitter.
I don't use it. I don't use it
I just
barely
got back on
ever.
it because I'm a low key crypto bro, and that's where you get the most updates and
You're
shit.
a low-key crypto bro?
It's low key, not a super.
Bro, when I was in high school, when I was like in high school, I had a friend in high school go, bro, there's this thing called mining Bitcoin. Let me
Mhm.
teach you how to do it. This was like 2012. And I was like, you're a fucking idiot. And now I look back like,
It how once again though, how could you at that time weren't ready for
I was an
that blessing.
idiot and I was
You were
literally
ready
just
for
like a
that
dumb
blessing.
high
I
schooler.
had $100 in Dogecoin back then, and my homie was like, "Yeah, that's a stupid one to buy," which he was technically right. But my intuition was telling me, but they seem to have a really strong community. This might be where like, but I ignored my intuition, and the community idea I had back then really paid out, and I probably would have made $1 million off that 100. But
Damn.
the me at that time wasn't ready for it.
How did you get into it?
That same friend, my best friend, he made money off. Like he was, he didn't get fucking super crazy rich off, but he made good money off of it. And he's the one who introduced the idea to me. So in 2017, when we all started really finding out about it, or like really giving it a second chance, that's when I first got in. I lost money on that one. And then 2021 came around, and I didn't quite, maybe not lose money. I made a little bit and then broke even. But I promised myself this year, this time around, I would be in a better position to take advantage of the situation.
Fire. Well, thank you so much for doing this, man. We did an hour already.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. We'll do the next one in person now that we know we're so fucking close. I didn't realize you were
I'm
still in
with you.
Providence, but no, I really appreciate it. Where can people find your stuff?
Just wherever
I don't even know why I say that. If
I
they're
want to be
watching it,
found.
they're gonna
I
fucking.
never, I never, even back, I never liked answering that question. Or like my friends would be like, "Yo, why don't you say your IG? Why
Yeah.
you on stage?" And I was like, I don't care.
No,
But
because it's like
no,
my
it's just
interviews aren't like that. They're not like a set up thing. So I always feel so gross being like, well, now let's turn it to a real, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
a
yeah.
real conver.
No, but yeah, just my first name, Khary. On most things, will find you. There's Khary Payton, who's like the He's a voice actor. He does like the voice for Cyborg and Teen Titans, and he's the dreaded dude in Walking Dead. So he might come up first, or it's gonna be me. Um,
Do people mistake you for that?
uh, I'm not sure.
They're
I
like cyborg raps?
I think there's a show where he like sings or raps or episode or some shit. But nah. That's, that man has a full head of hair. I am a bald man.
I'm
But
halfway there.
hey man, it's once you get there, man, it's not as bad as it feels. It's not, or you thought it was. It is what it is. And when I got the bread, I'm going to Turkey. It is, you know.
When you get rich off crypto, you're going to
I was gonna say,
Turkey.
yeah, make a little bread off crypto. But yeah, no, man. And yeah, I have a project coming out this year, an album uh called Alpha Male Podcast, but we'll get into that next time.
I love that.
Word.
Cool. I
Appreciate you, man.
appreciate you, man. Have a
Peace.
good one. Peace.